sit in the corner of the ring, and had a 2x4 in his lap the whole time, and that's how he taught. And at the time I looked at it and thought, I just want to learn more faster. I want more. I'm hungry for this stuff. I want this. But Bill's philosophy was, you can't remember more than 2 things a day anyway, so I'm not going to teach you more than 2. And it was a very slow, grinding. Every single thing he taught was taught as a shoot, and about half of our workouts were rolling on the mat, beating the crap out of each other. And
holy smokes!
That worked out really well for me. And then when I moved to Dallas, I trained with a guy, or I helped with the training, but really it was all new to me. So I was learning, and it was just the opposite. It was very, Bill's was strong psychology, make it work. And the guy that I trained with in Texas was not a lot of psychology, a lot of lucha and Japanese stuff, and it was all cardio and drills. But it has benefited me over the years, because with like dual training, there's very little that I can't do now.
Yep.
Oh, I know. You seem to mesh good with anybody that they put you in the ring with. Who was the guy in Dallas that you trained with?
He's not around anymore, and actually he trained under man, I'm drawing a blank.
See, I used to know a bunch of the guys from the old NWA Southwest up there in Richland Hills or whatever it is.
He worked for them some, but he trained under Les Thatcher. So if any of the guys,
that's cool.
If any of the guys questioned his training stuff, he would go, okay, well, we can call Malenko and Benoit because this is what they said, and if you don't believe me, you can ask me. And that would shut everybody up pretty good. So,
that is awesome. We've got Tim Storm with us today. He joins us live here on iHeartRadio and AMFM247.com. John Moiser with us today as well. And Tim Storm is the current NWA World Heavyweight Champion. And when they presented you, when you won that belt and they presented it to you in the ring, what the heck was that feeling like?
It was, I won't say unexpectedly incredibly emotional, but it was very, very emotional for me. That I am an old school NWA history guy.
Yes, and we are as well, and that's why we're both excited we've got you on today.
But, when you grow up, and I grew up in Arkansas in the South.
Yep.
And I got Georgia Championship Wrestling, I got Memphis Wrestling, and I got World Class every Saturday. And I grew up being Harley Race and Dusty Rhodes and Arn Anderson were all guys that I just love to watch. And when my hand got raised and they put that bed, James was in the ring with me, and Jax Dane was my opponent that night, and both guys that I respect a whole lot. And when they put that title around my waist, I couldn't stop the tears. It was very, very emotional. And I want to say I'm not a very emotional guy. As I get older, maybe I'm getting more emotional. I don't know, but it was just it was unreal, and I mean that sincerely.
Now
it was a very unreal moment in my life.
I know that you're one of these old school guys, so if you don't want to answer this next question, that's fine. I totally understand.
If he does anything wrong, Tim, I'll smack him around for you, okay?
But way back in the day, I know that like with Ric Flair and Harley Race and these guys, and anybody who was the NWA champion, you had to put up, what was it, some sort of bond or something on the belt?
Well, a lot of them did.
Is that still an old school thing that still goes on, or did that just kind of get thrown out when?
I think that got lost somewhere in the transitions. I think at some point, there's so many cool things about the NWA World Championship. But one of the cool things is you can legitimately, it is the great grandfather of every title in America and in every organization. You can trace that back and see the lineage everywhere. And I think somewhere maybe in that, and I'm just guessing because I don't know, but maybe somewhere in that TNA era, that there maybe somewhere in there it was getting moved around quite a bit. I think at that point, I think it kind of dropped off.
Well, this was the thing, because me and John were talking about this yesterday when we were at the gym. We were talking about the fact that Dan Severn had the belt, NWA title. And it was like right before Jarrett and TNA and everybody kind of got in with the NWA. It was like, I had read several reports on the internet that they hadn't signed Severn, or Severn didn't want to work for TNA or something, and so there was this. They had to get the belt off of him somehow, so then they could do their tournament or whatever. And that's the thing that I was really hoping, and I was really glad that when Billy Corgan bought the NWA, that they didn't immediately go, oh, well, who is the champion? Oh, it's this Tim Storm guy. Well, get the belt off of him as quick as possible, because we're done with that crap. We're doing something else. And I'm glad that when they bought the company, they're like, well, he's the current champion, so let's talk about him as the current champion and let's build him up. So I think that's nice that they didn't immediately just go, well, we're doing something else.
Right. Well, I have two thoughts on that. First off, it just kind of made me laugh when you said that, Dan Severn has the title and how are we going to get off of him?
Yeah.
Because seriously, yeah, I know, but think about that, because he's one of I wrestled Dan 2 or 3 times over the last 20 years, nothing recently, but the man is legitimate. One of the times I was wrestling, he had an article in one of the local papers, and it talked about him, in one of his, I guess it was the term wasn't MMA then, I guess it was UFC.
Yeah,
UFC
no holds barred or MMA or something.
He talked about winning a fight because he headbutted the guy something like 400 times. And I'm just laughing, thinking, how do you get the title off that guy? So if he doesn't want it off of you, you're okay. The weird thing about this is that this was, while all this discussion was going on, nobody knew about it. And that was because they had signed some kind of agreement, to not have anything public.
Yeah.
So I learned about it along with everybody else, literally.
They just had a tournament. They just one night they had their deal, and hey, we're having a tournament. It's like, what?
I'm saying with Billy Corgan when he bought it.
Okay, yeah, you.
A very, very non-disclosure thing had been signed, and nobody was talking about it, and nobody knew about it, and it was the week of CAC. And normally I go out there, and the previous 2 years I had gone out and defended the North American title out there, and I was not scheduled to wrestle, and I wasn't going out there. And word hit, and I don't know how it got released, but the word hit. Press release was out there that Billy Corgan had bought it. James Beard was the first one that texted me, and he said, "Didn't know anything about this either. I will find out and let you know what's going on." And I'm just like you. I didn't know how this was going to happen. I didn't. For all I know, there could have been another tournament coming up. I sat there and just waited, and a lot of discussion went on out there, and some different people met with, with Billy Corgan, and I guess it was more conference calls, and I just figured that I would, as long as, and this is what been the exciting thing about it is Dave Lagana and Billy Corgan truly love and respect the history of the NWA and the history and the legacy of the world title. And that's what I care about. And when I saw their love for that and that the respect for that was there, I just relaxed, because I knew that however it happened, they were going to do what was best for the world title. And whether that was best for Tim Storm or not was a different question. But I can put that aside because I truly, truly want, and this is when I got involved with the NWA 5 or 6 years ago and made that my priority. My focus was, I want the NWA to be successful, whatever that means, whatever they have to do. And that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing right now. And I'm so impressed with everything they've done so far.
Well, all the cool little viral things they've done with the videos and just all of a sudden things popping up here and there. I think it's amazing because, being a wrestling fan like we are, and you know these guys, you're on TV with them, you're in locker rooms with them. It's very hard to pull something off anymore that's a surprise factor, or without something getting out and somebody going, "Oh yeah, I know that happened 2 weeks ago." Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's part of the reason why this the fact that you've got the belt and you're doing things, I think is just amazing that they're putting you over like they are. I think it's great.
I do too. I continue to. I mean, I've seen the rough cut of the 4th episode of 10 Pounds of Gold. I saw it this morning, and I I say these things, and it's not like a tagline, but it just, but I continue to say that I know for a fact that I've got less miles in the windshield than I do in the rearview mirror. I know at 53 that I don't have a lot of time left in the business, and not at the level that I want to be at, and I'm not going to be one of those guys that's and I'm so critical of myself that there's very little anybody can say that I hadn't already said. So to myself. So if this is it for me, what a great way to go out. I mean, I'm going to go down swinging and fighting, but bless those guys, because they've taken the NWA title, and their goal is to make the NWA relevant again. And if I can help with that in any way possible, that's what I'm going to do. And man, it's been a great ride so far. I love everything they've done.
Well, the one thing that I think, and it's this is just, and I don't expect you to make any comments about this. This is just me thinking out loud.
Because Jiggy doesn't like drama at all. So.
No, don't like any drama at all. The thing I hope happens, I've been reading all these different reports about, Impact Wrestling's had money issues and all these things. I'm really hoping that at the end of the day, Billy gets them both. He gets the NWA, that he eventually gets Impact too.
I can comment, because I can honestly say I don't know. For Billy Corgan to reinvest in wrestling, it just shows you the passion that he has.
Oh, it's amazing! It is just absolutely amazing.
I was listening to a podcast and he made the comment. He was talking about his time. And he said his term was with another wrestling organization. And he said he would have ideas and he would do those, have things that he wanted to try, but it had to go through 7 levels of management. It always seemed to get lost and he wasn't able to do it. And we've all heard and read and all those kind of things about the money that was involved and the time and how nasty it got. But for somebody to go through that and then turn around and love the business so much that they put their time, money, and effort into.
Just buys another company. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's
well, and see, you're right about that, because I remember when I was working in radio in Salina, Kansas, they had burned me out so much on that at the end of it, I'm just like, I didn't want to do radio for like 2-3 years. I'm just like, screw this crap. And with him, he could have flat out just said, I am done with pro wrestling. I'm not watching it. I'm not having anything to do with it. And then turns around and goes, I really want to do wrestling.
Right.
And it's like it motivated him even more.
His comment has been that he's going to do it. He and Dave Lagana are going to do it with their vision. And he said, if we are successful, it's going to be because our vision worked. And if we're not, it's because our vision didn't work. He said, because we're going to do this the way we believe it should be done.
I think it's amazing. We've got Tim Storm with us today, the current NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Tim, when you got this title and they started having you go around and defending it, it is, one of the things that me and John were talking about yesterday was the fact that you see like a guy like Harley Race used to go into a territory, he'd be there for a couple weeks, and the goal was when he left, he was going to build up whoever their next top star is, and it was supposed to be a situation of, oh yeah, that guy barely lost the opportunity at the title. Is that kind of how you're doing things with the NWA? Do you get booked into different territories, or how's it work nowadays with the NWA title?
But prior to the acquisition and the changes, it worked very similar to that. It always kind of varied. There were affiliates that came and went. At some point I think we had 50 different NWA affiliates, and then at one point it was 32, and then it was back up. I don't know. And then part of the agreement was that they would book the world champion once a year. Now, not all of them did. Not all of them had the money to do it, but that was kind of the idea. And when I won the world title, that was, I was a big Ric Flair, showing myself. But today I was watching Flair Steamboat from '89, and everywhere that Flair went, not that he had to with Steamboat, but every territory that he went in, that was just exactly what you said. His goal was to have everybody in the building believe that their top guy almost won the world title. And that's kind of the way I tried to approach, going into all these different places. And I'm very fortunate that, kind of like you were saying earlier on with the TCW thing, I go in and I'm not a face or a heel. I'm the world champion. And I'll just see how the crowd reacts to me and just act accordingly. And luckily I can walk that line pretty well on either side and be just as happy. So I think that's a benefit. Now under our new ownership, they've basically done away with the affiliate program because they want full control. And I understand that also, because one of the things that they did is they visited almost every single affiliate. And we talked about this all the time under the old NWA ownership, is we needed some way to tie them all together so that each affiliate lived up to certain qualifications, and how do we know that they're putting out a good product, and how do we know they're using good guys, and is the ring safe? And the thing is, that's really hard to monitor when it's spread out all over and there's nobody to do that. So in a lot of cases that did not happen. Mr. Corrigan wants 100% consistency, so he's going to control that. And I heard he made an announcement the other day that spring of 2018 there will be some product out there.
Wow.
Probably a weekly taping. Now, the term they use, because here's where I start showing my lack of technical ability, but multiple media platforms being represented. I don't know where this is going to go, where it's going to appear, but it's going to happen spring of 2018. And you think about it, that's 4 or 5 months. That's not very far away.
Wow.
Oh, no, not at all. Hey, Tim, before Corrigan took over, they used to have it as the system was, there was a specific booking fee for the champ, and how did that work for you? I mean, did they just like sit there and somebody would say, hey, we've got the money up for this, can we get Tim Storm on this date? Did you do your own bookings?
Yeah.
For the most part, I did my own bookings with input from other people. I would go, somebody would say, hey, listen, I got a call from so-and-so and so-and-so in Arizona, and they're looking at bringing you in, what are your openings? And I would usually call and work it out. It was an adjustment, but it was one that I happily made. I mean, you're gonna pay me more money than I was making before to do the same thing I was doing, which is to go out and wrestle and work really hard. Okay, I'll do that. I'll happily do that. But the thing that was, Rob Conway had a lot of input as far as kind of helping me along those roads, because he'd held the title a couple times. And he told me very honestly, he goes, here's what you kind of have to realize is the NWA World's Championship belt is a star. And when you wrap it around your waist, when you strap that on, you become a star because of it. But there are people out there that are going to come to specifically see that world title, regardless of who's wearing it. That's the star. And that's absolutely true. I had a guy, I think I was in Arkansas actually, and I had a guy that said he took an 8-hour bus ride to come get a picture.
To come get a picture with the belt.
Yeah,
and I thought I was a belt mark.
You are, but that's all right. I would be too.
I'm smiling and holding up the title, and he gets the picture made, and then he says, "Well, do you mind if I get one without you?" And I was like, "Okay, wait a minute. Guess that's okay, But anyway, yeah, it's something else. I mean,
that is pretty damn cool. That is
the history of that is so amazing. I defended it in Japan this year in February.
Oh, I bet that was fun.
It was, it's always an experience over there. But in this particular case, they had booked me against a guy named Hama, who was a former the guy weighed 480 pounds. He was former sumo. He'd wrestled for Noah. He'd wrestled for, I think, New Japan, I think. And he was a local, a pretty big name locally. And, sponsored by Rivera, which was big for me. I thought that was pretty cool. But
did you get a jacket, though?
I did, actually, yeah. I did. I had 3 goals when I went. Defend the championship, successfully. Eat Korean barbecue and make it to Rivera. So I did all 3 of those. But
sweet.
The idea, the thought was that because of he's a local hero, the fans are going to be solidly behind him, and then I'd probably work accordingly. And I walked through the curtain And I came out to they'd used the same music over there for the world champion forever. And it's a really weird, I don't know, instrumental, I don't even know what it is. But I came out to the same music that Harley Race and all those guys used when they came out, which, in itself is cool. And if the crowd really prepared for the heel heat, and I walked out and they were chanting NWA. The respect that Japan has for the NWA World's Heavyweight title is unbelievable. And it's the same respect that I have, because they truly remember those guys that defended it over there. And those guys were and are legends in the business. So I get that. I had a guy recently, I was at a show here in Texas, and I'm not gonna drop his name. I don't know if you appreciate that or not, but it's a very, very well-known guy that's had runs everywhere. And I'm sitting there getting dressed, and we're all sitting around laughing. And he walks by and he stops and looks in the back, and the title, the belt is on my bag. And he goes, "Is that it? Is that really it?"
You're kidding me.
That's it. And he goes, "Can I hold it?" And I went, "Absolutely." And I mean, within the business, people absolutely respect it.
It's amazing.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing. We've got Tim Storm with us today. He is the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. One of the things that, and I've seen this over and over, back and forth. You were talking about, this belt has been around forever. I remember reading in school that, Abraham Lincoln was the NWA World Champion at one time, all the way back when he wrestled bears and everything.
That's right. And Gordon Soley commentated those, so.
Here's the bad thing out there. You say that jokingly, and there's somebody out there right now that's making the joke. I bet Tim Storm wrestled Lincoln for the title. Somebody out there is making that joke right now. So.
Well, it's probably Dusty Wolf, because he likes to think he's a little bit. I actually got to wrestle Dusty. He was awesome. Oh my gosh, it was probably the best match I ever had, because Dusty knew my big thing was my mouth, so he let me pop off to the crowd, and he kept it real simple. And I think he liked the fact that I didn't like to bump either. So
I was debating making that joke or not. So,
oh yeah. Well, he actually took 2 bumps in that match. So, and James gave him hell about that. Like, what? You took 2 bumps? That's more than you'd done in years.
Well, and both of them took about 30 seconds apiece. So that was.
Well, yeah, it was in segments, just like James said. But.
Oh, that section of them. No, I love Dusty, and man, he was good.
Oh, he was. He was so smooth. I mean, he made me look good, so he's got to be really good. So.
Oh man.
Now, do you have with this new regime? Have they went through and basically treated this like wrestling organizations? Are you signed to a contract to the NWA, or are you still, just being booked
like an independent contractor?
Yeah.
Or
yeah, I am not currently under contract. Here's the way it's working: is I'm kind of doing business as usual, with the exception of basically they're making the title defense matches, and they definitely want to do what's right for the world title, and I support that 100%. So it happens fairly regularly where they'll say, here's what we've got on this date. What are you looking at? And I'll say, well, here's kind of what I've committed to, and then we'll find a way to work it out so that I can make the title defense somewhere.
Wow.
And what they want, rightfully so, is they want large venues where it's going to be seen by a lot of people, and I didn't balk at that at all, but my whole thing was, this is a great. there are a lot of people that want to see the NWA World Champion, and I am still getting lots of bookings off that, but their whole thing is, we don't want the world title defended in someplace in front of 200 people. We want it defended in front of thousands of people because that's what it deserves. And I get it, and I completely agree with that.
Now, Tim, I'd heard some rumblings that they wanted to have a match on that championship wrestling from Hollywood, because they were kind of getting worked back into it because of the production values they had and stuff. Is there any truth to that at all? Or be specific or anything like that, if you'd heard anything or not? So.
Well, I get the question more from other wrestlers than anybody else, but Dave Marquez does a great job out there, Championship Wrestling of Hollywood. Their production value is really good. I've been out there, and I think I have 4 TVs out there, and I actually go there. I have my world title defense against Nick Aldis a week from today.
Okay, that's what. Okay, I was trying to remember who it was, but
yeah. But to answer your question, to my knowledge, and just sitting back and observing, I don't think I know that there's a former relationship where they did a lot of stuff together, Dave Lagana and Dave Marquez, but I don't and this is just me talking. Okay, I don't know, but I don't see that there's a long-term commitment there. Only because if Billy Corgan and Dave Lagana are going to have their own show in the spring, that seems to not be in line with, aligning full-time with an organization that has its own show that airs every Sunday on, CW and others.
That makes sense.
Now, yeah, but Billy Corgan's whole thing, and his whole thing is this is a new era. We ought to be able to work across all boundaries. That there ought to be a way to build relationships and share talent and all those kind of things for everybody that's involved. That's a better deal. And I think that's what he wants to do. So again, I don't know anything officially. I've not seen anything in writing. I just know that they saw this as an opportunity and a great way to reintroduce. The funny thing was, once we got started talking, we got there and all sorts of things. Dave Marquez and I had done some TV stuff in Springfield, Missouri for Harley Race 20-something years ago. We had shared a ring and done some things. So, there was history there. And then the fact that Dave Marquez was an NWA promoter for a long time. So there was lots of cool little
that is pretty cool
connections in that. Yeah, I mean, and what you see with me is what you get. When I stand up, start talking, I'm not running. I don't know what it says about me, but I can work face or heel just as well. But what you see is me. When I stand up in the ring, I'm not cutting a promo. I'm speaking from my heart. And Dave Marquez was the same way.
Yeah,
there was a good click when we got in there and started talking.
Yeah, the only reason I was asking is because I know Lagana and Adam Pearce used to be pretty tight. And Lagana was with Ring of Honor, and Pearce was helping there. And Pearce was really instrumental out there in Championship Wrestling from Hollywood when he was NWA champ. So I didn't know if there was any. That's what I had heard rumbling-wise. So,
again, to my knowledge, that I think it's all been just kind of a handshake agreement. And in looking at it, at the way it's developing, I think it's mutually beneficial right now. I know that I don't think anybody except maybe Dave Lagana and Billy Corgan knew the direction they were going with these incredible episodes of 10 Pounds of Gold. And it's gotten so much attention just with the quality and the storytelling that has done nothing but help Dave Marquez and his group, right? Because now they're getting all that attention. You've got more people wanting to watch the show.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a thing that's benefited everybody, but I don't think there's any, to my knowledge, there's no agreement other than just a handshake.
Cool. That's what I was wondering. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's pretty cool. Well, I know that we've got to let you go because you've got places to be and people to see and all that shenanigans. But Tim, before we let you go, if people want to get a hold of you on social media or book you or websites, anything, how do they get in touch with you, my man?
The best way to do it is, Twitter is Tim Storm NWA. I really, and I don't, maybe I'm behind the times, but I still do a ton of business through Facebook, through messaging, private messaging, all that kind of stuff. Those are the best ways. There are others, but truthfully, those are the two that I'm most active on. Hey man, I would just encourage everybody out there, and I know listening to your show that they're probably already doing it, but support wrestling. Whoever you like, love them. Whoever you hate them completely. But support professional wrestling, and anybody out there, if you get the chance, I highly encourage you to check out the NWA. Subscribe to the NWA channel and check out, 10 Pounds of Gold. The 4th episode will be releasing this week. So I highly recommend those. They're really, really good. Even if I weren't in them, I'd still tell you they were really, really good.
Thanks, champ.
I appreciate it, my friend. We will talk soon, and we will definitely talk to you in the next couple months. I'll be in touch, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me on.
Appreciate it. That was Tim Storm, the current NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Hell of a deal. What did you think there, Johnny boy?